Welcome, listeners. I'm Silas, your sleepy storyteller, pulling you down the rabbit hole of time, where dreams and memories intertwine. If you enjoy these videos, please tap the like button. It really helps. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can keep drifting along on your sleepy journey through history. And before we wander down the rabbit hole, share your city and time in the comments. I love imagining our journey threading through every ticking clock. Now, take a moment to find a comfortable resting position. Close your eyes gently, and in your own time, allow yourself to sink into the quiet atmosphere of the past as we begin our slow journey together. It's a humid evening in Queens, the kind of heat that presses against your skin, sticky and thick, making the air feel almost alive. The last slivers of sun have disappeared behind the skyline, leaving a gray-gold twilight that flickers in the clouds overhead. Shea Stadium stands before me like a beacon, massive, electric, alive. Its floodlights glow a defiant golden white, cutting through the growing dusk, illuminating the crowded stands, the green of the field, and the rows of excited fans like a stage set for a play we are all part of. I am nestled somewhere in the midsection, high enough to see the pitcher's mound and the crack of the bat, low enough to feel the pulse of the crowd. The scent of hot dogs, pretzels, and popcorn mingles with the humid summer air. Vendors push carts, weaving expertly between legs and folding chairs, shouting over the ambient noise. Peanuts, Cracker Jacks, ice-cold soda here. Children wave foam fingers, couples hold hands tightly, and groups of friends laugh, oblivious to the distant storm rolling in from the horizon. The game is lively. The crack of leather against wood, the thump of the ball and gloves, the enthusiastic chants of fans, all fuse into a singular heartbeat that vibrates beneath my feet. The energy is electric, palpable, almost as if the crowd itself has taken physical form. Somewhere, an elderly man leans on his cane, nodding along to the rhythm, while teenagers in oversized caps cheer their heroes on the field. Time feels both frozen and urgent. But then, in the distance, the sky begins to stir. Dark clouds gather with a speed that makes the hairs on my arms stand at attention. Lightning dances across the horizon, sharp and uninvited, and the first distant rumbles of thunder roll low through the city streets, shaking the concrete beneath us. A few heads tilt skyward, eyebrows knitting, as if reading a warning in the storm. And then it happens. Just as the pitcher winds up for what would have been the next throw, the stadium lights flicker. 1, 2, 3 rapid pulses of brightness, each flash revealing startled faces, frozen mid-cheer. And then, darkness. The glow vanishes entirely, swallowed by the encroaching night. A strangled gasp rises from the crowd. For a second, there is only disbelief, an uncomprehending silence punctuated by the distant boom of thunder. Then confusion erupts into panic. People shout, stumble, and scramble for the aisles. The emergency lights flicker weakly, casting long, jagged shadows that stretch across the stands like dark fingers. Somewhere, a concession cart tips, spilling peanuts across the concrete like tiny, tumbling stars. A child cries, piercing the low hum of anxious voices, and someone curses under their breath as they fumble in a pocket for a flashlight. I grip the railing tightly, slick with condensation from the humid air, and take cautious steps forward. The crowd is a tide, surging unpredictably, pressing me gently but insistently toward the exit. Panic is contagious. Every stumble, every shouted command feeds the momentum. For a moment, the stadium feels less like a place of recreation and more like a living organism in distress, writhing and thrashing in the darkness. Lightning flashes again, illuminating the chaos in sharp, merciless bursts. Faces contort with fear and frustration. Hats and scarves fly through the air. A man struggles to calm a dog, the animal's leash wrapped in frantic knots around his legs. The metallic tang of rain, mixed with the scent of sweat and popcorn, fills my mouth, making each breath feel electric. Somewhere ahead, a lone voice rises above the cacophony, shouting, "Keep moving!" A command, a prayer, a lifeline, echoing like a fragile beacon through the storm. I descend into a corridor, narrow and echoing, each footstep magnified in the stillness between waves of panic. The walls sweat with condensation, and my hands slide over cold, slick metal railings. Somewhere far off, a car horn blares, sharp and urgent, though it's impossible to tell if it's a warning or just the confusion of the streets spilling into the stadium. My heart hammers against my rib cage, matching the rhythm of the storm, matching the rhythm of the crowd. And then I emerge. The doors fling open, revealing streets that are both familiar and utterly alien. The fluorescent glow of traffic lights is gone, replaced by inky shadows, punctuated only by occasional street lamps, their bulbs flickering weakly as if unsure whether to hold on. The rain slicks glint under the lightning's erratic pulse, reflecting distorted images of the throngs of fans pouring out behind me. Chaos reigns. People scatter in all directions, trying to orient themselves in the unfamiliar night. Some clutch bags or purchases, afraid of losing them to the crush of others. Friends are separated in an instant, their cries swallowed by the storm. Somewhere nearby, a man drops his briefcase, the contents spilling into the gutter, and a child wails for their parents, invisible in the shadows. The city, normally a predictable mosaic of streets and traffic, has become a dark, sprawling theater of confusion. Every sound is amplified. The slap of wet shoes on asphalt, the distant shriek of a siren, the low rumble of the thunder, and the frantic murmur of voices trying to find one another. Every flash of lightning reveals more of the panic. A woman dragging her purse protectively across the sidewalk. A group of teenagers huddling together with a mixture of excitement and fear. A man helping an elderly lady step around puddles, her cane clicking on the uneven pavement. I pause at the curb, the storm's downpour soaking through my clothes, cold and invigorating. My chest rises and falls rapidly, heart still racing from the crush of humanity behind me. I inhale deeply, tasting the metallic bite of rain and electricity, and for a moment, I feel as if the entire city has been suspended in a single, taut moment of uncertainty. Somewhere in the distance, a store window shatters. Small, startling. The sound ripples across the streets, followed by hurried footsteps, shouted words, and a low chorus of alarms, some mechanical, some human. The crowd shifts instinctively, parting and reforming, a living river navigating invisible currents. I move carefully, stepping over debris and puddles, every sense alert. The blackout has begun in earnest, and it has transformed the city I thought I knew into a shadowed, chaotic landscape. Queens, Flushing, and every street in between seems to hold its breath, waiting for the next flash of lightning, the next echo of fear, the next ripple of human impulse. The night is alive, and I am walking through its pulse. I take another cautious step forward, listening to the city around me, the panicked voices fading into murmurs, the distant honks of confused drivers, the low, insistent rumble of the thunder rolling across the borough. The ordinary has been erased. Only the unpredictable remains. And in the midst of it all, I feel a strange, compelling exhilaration. This is the city, unguarded, raw, and vibrant, revealing the essence of humanity in the shadows. Every face I pass tells a story. Worry, fear, curiosity, determination. Every movement is charged with urgency and the innate drive to survive, to connect, to find light where there is none. In that darkness, in that chaos, there is a rhythm, a story, a heartbeat that matches my own. And as I continue to move forward, the storm and the crowd and the blackout itself become a symphony I am now part of. Step by careful step, I leave Shea Stadium behind. The lights are gone, the normal sounds of the city silenced, but a strange kind of awareness has taken hold. Queens is not sleeping tonight. The city is watching, listening, feeling its own pulse in the sudden, startling silence. And I, Silas, am moving through it, a lone observer and participant, witnessing the heartbeat of New York as it falters, shifts, and endures. The streets of Flushing stretch before me like a dark river, slick and shining under the drizzle that has not yet let up. My shoes slap softly against the wet pavement, each step punctuated by the faint hiss of rainwater trickling into storm drains. The city feels quieter now, almost unnervingly so, as if it too is holding its breath after the chaos I left behind at Shea Stadium. The usual hum of traffic and chatter is gone, replaced by the occasional distant shout, the far-off wail of a siren, or the sudden metallic crack of lightning splitting the night sky. Ahead, the Queen's Botanical Garden rises from the darkened streets like a quiet island of serenity. Its perimeter is a shadowed mosaic of hedges, wrought iron fencing, and low stone walls. The faint outlines of summer blooms reach upward, glistening with droplets that catch the intermittent flashes of lightning. The garden is alive, yet still, a paradox in the midst of a city already trembling under fear and uncertainty. Its paths, lined with carefully tended shrubs and flower beds, invite calm and reflection, a stark contrast to the frenzy that erupted hours earlier. I step inside the gates, and the world changes. Here, the chaotic pulse of the blackout seems to slow, muted by the calm, orderly presence of nature. Each plant, each tree, each flower appears deliberate in its placement, as if to remind the visitor that some things, life, growth, structure, endure even when all else falters. The leaves glisten under the dim silver of streetlights, occasional lightning illuminating their shapes like ghosts frozen mid-motion. I pause to take a deep breath. The air is damp, earthy, and heavy with the perfume of wet soil and summer greenery. It presses against my lungs in a soothing, grounding way, and for the first time tonight, my mind begins to still. The contrast is almost surreal. The serene, enduring life of the garden against the backdrop of a city careening into darkness and uncertainty. Here, even the rain feels purposeful, like a cleansing tide washing the tension from the streets and the lingering panic of Shay. A faint rustle reaches me, a small animal moving through the underbrush, a bird fluttering in startled flight. I can almost hear the heartbeat of the garden itself, a slow, measured rhythm that exists independently of human chaos. In this moment, I feel the enduring patience of life, the quiet strength that does not shout but simply persists. Every petal and leaf, every damp blade of grass seems to whisper, "We endure, we remain." As I walk through the garden, I notice the shadows cast by the trees. They stretch long across the paths, curling and bending with the faint gusts of wind. Lightning flashes intermittently, and each time the garden transforms briefly into a stage, illuminated and almost magical, before retreating back into darkness. I can feel the tension in my shoulders slowly unwinding. The city's chaos feels miles away, replaced by the intimate, intricate world of the garden. I linger near a small pond tucked behind a cluster of flowering shrubs. The water reflects the faint, broken light of the street lamps and lightning, shimmering with an otherworldly glow. I lean over slightly, watching the ripples distort the reflections, and for a moment, it feels as though time itself has slowed, allowing me to observe the quiet persistence of nature as if it exists outside the reach of panic and disorder. But the city cannot be ignored for long. Pulling myself away from the garden's protective cocoon, I step back onto Main Street. The silence of the blackout weighs differently here, heavier, more tangible. I pass through the edges of puddles reflecting the dim streetlights, and the occasional distant shout reminds me that the chaos is never far. People move along the sidewalks in small clusters, faces dimly lit by handheld flashlights or the flicker of candles. Some sit on curbs, leaning back against wet stoops, while others whisper hurriedly, discussing rumors of looting and fires, or simply sharing a shared disbelief at the city plunged into darkness. My path brings me to the Flushing Public Library at 4117 Main Street. Its stone facade rises in solemnity, unyielding, a symbol of stability amidst upheaval. Even in the darkness, the library exudes a sense of permanence. Its steps are worn smooth by decades of foot traffic. Its doorway, a familiar and comforting threshold for generations of readers. I pause to take it in, noting the faint glow of a candle or two inside the windows and the groups of people huddled nearby. Some hold books in their laps, perhaps seeking solace in words, even as the world outside seems to spin toward disorder. Others simply sit, leaning forward, eyes wide, ears tuned to the distant cries of the city. The connection between the library and the nearby Woolworths weighs on my mind, a crossing of two worlds, one of calm knowledge, reflection, and learning, the other of human impulse, panic, and looming chaos. This intersection becomes more than a mere geographic fact. It is symbolic, a reminder that within the same city, within the same moment, contrasting realities coexist. Knowledge and impulse, patience and impatience, serenity and fear. I take another deep breath, letting the damp summer air fill my lungs. There is tension here, undeniably, the hum of uncertainty vibrating beneath the quiet. But there is also resilience, subtle and steadfast, in the way people cling to the familiar, to rituals of safety and normalcy. The flicker of candle flames becomes a metaphor, tiny guardians in a sea of darkness, casting faint pools of light onto the cracked stone pavement. Moving closer to the library entrance, I hear snippets of conversation, soft, hurried whispers in different languages. A testament to Flushing's diverse community. A man assures a woman that the subway may not run tonight, but the streets are safe to walk. A group of teenagers jokes quietly, nervously, trying to turn fear into mirth, their laughter muffled by the hum of rain and the distant crack of lightning. I notice a young boy clutching a book to his chest, eyes wide in awe or apprehension. He sits alone on the steps, legs swinging, seemingly suspended in time. His presence is a gentle reminder that the night is not entirely consumed by fear. There is still curiosity, wonder, and the simple human drive to seek light, even if it is just the faint flicker of a candle flame. Beyond the immediate calm, I feel the tension of anticipation. The storm, the human, social storm, has not yet fully arrived. There is a hush across Main Street, an eerie prelude, as if the city itself is drawing a deep breath before the chaos surges back. The library, the garden, and the quiet clusters of people create a fragile bubble of serenity, one that feels almost sacred against the backdrop of what I have seen unfold elsewhere. I continue my slow walk north, the library at my right, the fading outlines of the garden behind me. Every step is accompanied by a symphony of small sounds, the patter of rain, the distant murmur of voices, the occasional metallic echo of a trash can lid displaced by the wind. I notice the texture of the street beneath my feet, the dampness that clings to my shoes, the way puddles ripple as I pass, each one reflecting fractured light like shattered mirrors. In this stillness, I begin to think not only about the night, but about the resilience of the city itself. The 1977 blackout did not destroy New York. It revealed it in all its beauty and fragility. Behind the chaos, behind the fear and looting, there is life that persists. There are communities, histories, and ordinary human courage, all waiting patiently to emerge once the storm passes. The library looms as I take one last moment to observe it. Its stone steps, darkened by rain, are empty except for the quiet clusters of people leaning near its entrance. The facade is resolute, unyielding, a marker of human endurance in the face of uncertainty. I imagine generations who came here before, seeking knowledge, comfort, or simply a sense of normalcy. And tonight, amidst blackout and panic, the library fulfills the same role once again, a steady anchor in the midst of shifting chaos. Finally, I allow myself to continue north, leaving the protective calm of the library and the botanical garden behind. I can feel the tension creeping back, the edges of fear and chaos pressing in once more. But for now, in this brief, suspended moment, there is serenity. There is reflection. There is a quiet, unshakable reminder that even in darkness, life endures and the human spirit persists. The shadows grow longer as I approach the familiar intersection of Main Street and Roosevelt Avenue. The summer night is heavy with the scent of rain-soaked asphalt and exhaust, mingling with the distant, acrid smoke rising from fires that have already taken root in the city. I can hear the first whispers of panic long before I see the crowds. The air itself feels electric, charged with fear, anticipation, and a strange, almost palpable hunger. Woolworth's looms ahead, its once bright display windows now fractured and jagged, reflecting flickers of emergency lighting that pulse like distant lightning trapped in glass. I pause on the corner, taking a breath and letting my eyes adjust to the darkness. Faces pressed against the remaining intact glass peer out, or perhaps into the darkness beyond, seeking the familiar and finding none. Some of the faces are frozen with disbelief. Others twist with raw desire. Fists pound on doors and windows, each strike resonating like a drumbeat, announcing to the night that the rules have changed, that the city's heartbeat has shifted. It's not just people seeking shelter or safety. No, this line that stretches along the sidewalk is not for comfort or community. It's a line of opportunity, a human queue forming in the shadows, driven by fear, hunger, or the thrill of lawlessness. The metallic crash of breaking glass punctuates the storm outside, a rhythm to which the crowd dances, some with hesitation, some with abandon. I inch closer, careful to keep my distance. My role tonight is observer, chronicler, the silent witness to a city unraveling. The wet cobblestones beneath my feet glisten as lightning flickers across the skyline, illuminating ragged figures scrambling through the broken doors. People grab merchandise with frantic efficiency, dragging it into the street, the wet pavement reflecting their movements like a warped mirror. A man yanks a stack of radios from the shelf. A woman pulls bundles of clothing over her shoulder, eyes darting constantly toward the windows and the approaching shadows of officers. Fear, adrenaline, and desire collide in a chaotic ballet, each step choreographed by survival instincts and the intoxication of lawlessness. Inside Woolworth's, the chaos is almost poetic in its brutality. Shelves are overturned, cans of soda roll across the floor, and the smell of damp paper and wet textiles mixes with the acrid smoke drifting in from the street. The faint glow of a single emergency light overhead illuminates fleeting expressions of triumph, worry, and panic. In one corner, a young man struggles to lift a cash register, his muscles straining, sweat streaking his face, while a child tugs at his sleeve, wide-eyed and frightened. The interior of the store, so familiar just hours before, has become a theater of primal instincts. I move toward Gertz, the neighboring department store, my coat soaked and my heart hammering. Through the intermittent flashes of lightning and the flickering neon of nearby businesses, I can see its doors being barricaded by desperate store owners. Wooden tables, display cases, even metal racks are pressed against entrances in a futile attempt to hold back the tides. But the crowd is relentless. A woman shouts from the sidewalk, urging her companions forward, and the first windows of Gertz give way under the force of repeated blows. The sound is deafening, a jagged symphony of glass shattering, wood splintering, and human voices shouting over one another. The street is alive with movement. People slip and slide on the rain-slick pavement, their movements erratic, unpredictable. Some carry armfuls of goods with a prideful frenzy. Others stumble, dropping their spoils in the mud and quickly scrambling to retrieve them. Each stolen item carries its own weight of intention, some for survival, some for pleasure, some for something darker, a thrill born of transgression. Law enforcement appears in small numbers, their presence both a warning and an invitation. Officers shout commands that are swallowed by the night, their batons striking empty air or the slick pavement. They struggle to control the chaos, to corral a crowd that has become fluid, almost animalistic in its motion. Smoke rises from overturned carts and ignited trash bins, curling into the night like phantom fingers, stretching toward the heavens in silent accusation. The orange glow from distant fires casts an eerie, otherworldly light across the wet streets. And in the shadows, human faces emerge and vanish in flashes of panic and determination. Amidst the bedlam, moments of humanity shine faintly. A man lifts a child over a broken fence to safety. A woman shares a flashlight with a neighbor. An elderly couple huddles together on the curb, murmuring to each other in reassurance. These fleeting instances are almost drowned out by the larger tide of chaos, yet they are impossible to ignore. They are reminders that even in the heart of darkness, some form of decency persists. I pause at the corner, taking in the scene from a slightly elevated angle, crouched behind a partially overturned newsstand. My coat is soaked, sticking to my skin, and the rain falls in heavy sheets, hissing as it strikes the flames licking up from a nearby trash bin. The sounds of the city are transformed into a wild orchestra. Sirens, shouts, splintering wood, the occasional crash of an automobile striking debris. Everything is amplified, alive, pulsing with the energy of desperation and fear. Nearby, other smaller shops face their own battles. Grocers, jewelers, and clothing stores struggle to protect their livelihoods, pushing shelves and merchandise to block entrances. Yet, against the sheer force of human determination or human desperation, they falter. Items vanish into the night, seized by hands driven by a cocktail of hunger, anger, and thrill. I witness a man who attempts to restrain himself, hesitating at the threshold of a store, and then giving in to the dark pull of opportunity. His face is illuminated by a flash of lightning, and I see the conflict writ large across his features, the battle between morality and survival, fear and desire. He grabs a small stack of goods, slips back into the shadows, and disappears into the chaos. The night swallows him, and he becomes just another shadow among countless others. moving through the streets in a slow, restless river. The deeper I move into the intersection, the more I understand the layers of the night. It is not just about looting or lawlessness. It is about the collapse of order, about a city being peeled back to reveal the raw, unfiltered human instinct beneath. Every action, every theft, every shout is a note in the symphony of chaos, yet, even here, there is rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, a reminder that life persists even amidst destruction. Smoke and rain mingle to create a mist that hangs low over the streets. Figures dart in and out of the fog, their forms ephemeral and ghost-like, illuminated briefly by the flickering emergency lights and the occasional lightning strike. I can feel the pulse of the city through my shoes, through my fingertips as I brush against a damp wall, through the beat of my own heart, racing in sync with the unfolding drama. There is exhilaration in observing this, a strange thrill that is both terrifying and intoxicating. The city, in its chaos, has become a living, breathing entity, one that moves unpredictably, yet with purpose, shaped by the countless choices of the individuals who inhabit it. Morality, survival, opportunity, they intermingle in the shadows, creating a mosaic of human experience that is at once horrifying and fascinating. I step back to a safer vantage point, pulling my hood tighter against the rain, and let my eyes sweep the scene one last time. Woolworths, Gertz, and the smaller shops, all are caught in the same maelstrom, each a stage upon which human instinct performs its timeless drama. The air is thick with the smell of wet clothing, smoke, and the faint tang of spilled soda. Sirens scream in the distance. Yet here, in this intersection, the city moves to its own dark rhythm, one dictated by immediate desire and primal instinct, rather than law or order. As I continue to move along the wet sidewalks, the storm around me begins to feel almost cinematic in its intensity. Lightning splits the sky above Roosevelt Avenue, illuminating the chaos below in stark, fleeting detail. Faces, hands, merchandise, flames, they all flash into view and then are gone again, swallowed by darkness. I can almost hear the city's heart beating in the silence between crashes, a slow, steady drum that persists even when human voices and actions seem chaotic beyond reason. By the time I step past the intersection, leaving Woolworths and its neighboring department stores behind, the city has transformed irrevocably. The darkness no longer feels merely empty. It feels alive, as if it has taken a deep breath and is observing the chaos it has revealed. My coat is soaked, my heart still racing, and yet, strangely, I feel exhilarated. I have witnessed something primal tonight, the collision of fear, desire, and survival under the pressure of sudden darkness. New York has revealed its raw core, and I have walked through it, a silent chronicler of the shadows. The metallic taste of rain still lingers on my tongue. The wet streets glisten beneath the intermittent lightning, and somewhere, deep in the shadows, humanity continues its unpredictable dance. The night is far from over, but the lesson is clear. Even in darkness, the city is alive, unpredictable, and breathtakingly human. By the time I reach Macy's, the streets of Flushing have transformed into a shadowed, trembling stage of human drama. The orderly rhythm of the day, the bright storefronts, the neatly lined cars, the hum of pedestrian chatter has evaporated. In its place is a raw, almost primal pulse, a heartbeat of panic and opportunity interwoven with fear. The summer air is thick and stifling, tinged with smoke from distant fires and the acrid scent of scorched merchandise wafting from overturned carts and open windows. Rain drips from awnings, sizzling as it hits the heat-struck asphalt. Macy's looms ahead, a grand, multi-story structure that once exuded the promise of commerce, now a chaotic monument to the city's unleashed energies. Windows are shattered, and jagged glass glints faintly under the flickering streetlights and the occasional flash of lightning overhead. Inside, shadows move like living creatures, silhouettes carrying bundles of clothing, electronics, and household goods. Looters move with a disjointed coordination, slipping between beams of streetlight, scanning constantly for authority or competition. They are opportunists, survivors, thieves, and sometimes children caught in the invisible gravity of the night's frenzy. I take a cautious step closer, letting my senses absorb the scene. Every sound is amplified in the darkness. The sharp crack of breaking glass, the hurried shuffle of feet on wet pavement, the faint metallic echo of a cash register ripped from its foundation. Somewhere near the entrance, a door crashes open, and a crate of canned goods tumbles out onto the sidewalk. People scramble to claim its contents, shouting and jostling one another in the near panic. The faint wail of sirens ripples through the neighborhood, carried by the humid air, but they are distant and disjointed, swallowed by the immediate chaos. A fire engine's horn blares somewhere further down Roosevelt Avenue, a futile call for order in the swirling storm of human instinct. I notice groups of teenagers moving with surprising organization, passing bundles of merchandise hand to hand, disappearing into alleyways with the sort of calculated urgency usually reserved for heists in movies. Yet amid the lawlessness, moments of tenderness emerge, striking in their unexpectedness. A young mother hoists her child over a toppled fence, carrying him to safety through the throng of scrambling bodies. Her eyes are wide and bright with fear, but there is determination there too, a refusal to let the night's chaos dictate her child's fate. Nearby, an elderly man leans heavily on his cane, arguing with a shopkeeper over a crate of canned goods. Neither of them raises their voice above the distant clamor. Their words are deliberate, measured, almost ritualistic, as if holding on to civility can anchor them amidst the anarchy. I step carefully over a discarded shopping cart, feeling the slick, rain-slicked pavement underfoot. The air is electric, and not just from the storm. It's a different kind of charge, one that runs through the crowd like a nervous current. People move in clusters, circling one another, sometimes helping, sometimes snatching goods from their neighbors. Fear and opportunity dance together, inseparable, creating a rhythm that is chaotic, relentless, and hypnotic. The visual tableau is astonishing. Smoke curls upward in thick, lazy spirals, illuminated by the occasional flare of lightning. Shattered glass sparkles like scattered diamonds across the asphalt. Neon signs from nearby shops flicker weakly, casting garish, distorted colors over the pandemonium. Children cling to parents' hands, small bodies pressed close, wide-eyed in confusion and curiosity. Shop mannequins, once carefully arranged to showcase summer fashions, lie toppled and broken, limbs twisted unnaturally like fallen marionettes. I notice a group of young men hauling a television across the wet sidewalk. The screen glows faintly, flickering from some residual battery charge, casting ghostly images of static onto the faces of passers-by. One boy stumbles, and the television crashes to the ground, shattering spectacularly. The crowd reacts immediately, some rushing to seize what they can, others recoiling at the unexpected noise. The surge of movement is almost musical, discordant, but pulsing with energy. A frantic choreography written in instinct and fear. Above the din, I hear snippets of conversation that pierce the haze. "Grab what you can," shouts one. "Hurry," another cries. "It's all we've got." A woman's voice breaks through, singing softly to soothe her crying child, a fragile thread of humanity in the midst of carnage. And that, more than anything, is what strikes me. The contrast between desperation and kindness, chaos and empathy, shadow and light. I move closer to the store entrance, slipping past a cluster of looters who eye me suspiciously but do not hinder my passage. The interior of Macy's is an astonishing, almost surreal landscape. Clothes are strewn across floors, hangers tangled like wild vines. Shelves have been upended, spilling their contents in haphazard rivers of goods. The scent of wet fabric, burnt cardboard, and acrid smoke hangs thick in the air, mingling with the natural musk of fear and sweat from those navigating the chaos. In one corner, a teenager lifts a box of radios and passes it to another waiting outside. Their movements, silent but urgent. A rhythm born from instinct rather than instruction. A cashier huddles behind a counter, head down, clutching a small cash box to her chest. Her eyes flick up occasionally, scanning for movement, gauging the intentions of those around her. There is terror here, yes, but also an unspoken understanding. The chaos is temporary, a storm to survive, not a permanent reality. I step back into the street, letting the scene wash over me from a safe distance. It is mesmerizing, horrifying, and exhilarating all at once. The blackout has stripped the city of its modern conveniences, but in doing so, it has revealed something raw and fundamental. People, stripped of light and certainty, move according to instinct, morality bending and flexing in real time. Survival, generosity, theft, compassion, they coexist, tangled and inseparable in the humid night air. Amid the madness, I notice fleeting instances of quiet heroism. A neighbor drags a partially collapsed umbrella over a group of children huddled on the curb. Another offers a cigarette to someone shivering in the rain, a small, human gesture that doesn't solve the chaos but affirms the persistence of community. Even here, in what appears to be the heart of disorder, humanity asserts itself in tiny, luminous acts, defiant against the surrounding darkness. I wander further down the sidewalk, past overturned carts, broken glass, and the occasional distant fire, observing the energy as it pulses through the streets like a living organism. Every few steps, lightning splits the sky, illuminating the scene in stark relief, faces twisted in concentration or fear, hands clutching whatever can be carried, bodies moving with a blend of grace and desperation. Shadows stretch unnaturally, mingling with smoke and rain, to create a landscape that is at once surreal and unmistakably real. The human drama here is a study in contrasts. Some are ruthless, grabbing goods and pushing aside anyone in their path. Others are gentle, guiding children or assisting the elderly. And everywhere, fear thrums through the crowd, a tangible force that affects movement, speech, and even thought. The darkness, it seems, reveals not only the worst impulses, but also the most profound resilience. By the time I move past Macy's and glance back, the scene remains unchanged, chaotic, alive. The storm outside, the blackout, the fear and the excitement, it all blends together into a singular experience, one that is almost hypnotic in its intensity. I realize that this night, more than any other, is a study of the human condition. Stripped of comfort and certainty, people respond according to instinct and conscience, and both forces are equally compelling, equally destructive, equally necessary. The rain has slowed to a drizzle, the smoke beginning to thin, but the night is far from over. The sirens continue to wail in the distance, a reminder that the city's systems are still functioning somewhere, however faintly. And as I stand there, watching, breathing in the humid air, I feel an odd mixture of dread and awe. This is not merely a blackout. It is a mirror held up to the soul of the city, revealing every shadow and every light within it. In the midst of destruction and fear, I see the glimmers of hope, small acts of courage, fleeting moments of generosity, and the undeniable fact that the city, in all its chaos, endures. The streets may be dark, chaotic, and dangerous tonight, but life persists. Humanity persists. And in that persistence, there is a strange, unspoken beauty, a reminder that even in the darkest nights, there is light, however small, to guide us forward. Moving north along Main Street, the night stretches before me like a dark river. The storm has eased slightly, leaving the streets wet and reflective, each puddle mirroring fractured streetlights. The shadows twist and bend with every flicker of emergency lights, and in them, I catch glimpses of people scurrying, slipping, and scrambling like ants disturbed. The smell of smoke from distant fires hangs in the air, thick and acrid, mingling with the faint tang of rain and wet asphalt. Ahead, the Flushing Town Hall rises like a solemn sentinel on Northern Boulevard. Its historic brick facade and tall windows, now shrouded in darkness, except for the flickering of police flashlights bouncing against the walls. Normally a place of speeches, meetings, and civic life, tonight it is a stage for a very different drama, the collision of law and chaos. As I approach, the sounds of the city change. The looting that echoed through Woolworth's and Macy's earlier fades, replaced by the sharp staccato of orders being shouted by uniformed officers. Freeze! Stop! Down on the ground! The words punctuate the night like gunfire, urgent and demanding attention. I step carefully over broken glass and debris, my coat slick with rain, every heartbeat loud in my ears. Around me, people scatter at the approach of police, some sprinting, faces hidden in shadows, hands clutching stolen goods. The fleeing crowd is a river of humanity, unpredictable and violent in its momentum. A woman trips, and a man beside her snatches her arm to pull her upright, their silhouettes fleetingly illuminated by a bolt of lightning in the distance. The energy here is different from the chaos I witnessed further south. Earlier, the looting felt raw and wild, fueled by opportunity and adrenaline. Here, near the town hall, it is edged with fear. Fear of authority, fear of arrest, fear of being caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. The collision of desperation and control produces a tension that wraps around the city like a tightening coil. Police cars line the boulevard in fractured formation, their sirens off but lights flashing. Officers move in coordinated groups, attempting to cut off escape routes, herding the fleeing crowd toward temporary containment zones. Their radios crackle with static, voices shouting over one another as if the city itself were competing to be heard. I notice one young officer, barely older than a teenager, shouting for compliance, his baton raised, eyes wide. There is both determination and fear etched into his features, a reminder that authority itself is human, fallible, and vulnerable. Mass arrests occur in waves near the town hall steps. People are cuffed 2 at a time, hands pulled behind their backs, their shouts a mix of defiance and panic. Some cry out for family members, others curse the officers, their voices cracking in the night. I watch a man resist, struggling and kicking, only to be subdued by 4 officers. The struggle echoes through the wet streets, punctuated by the slap of boots on pavement and the metallic jangle of handcuffs. From this vantage point, I feel the pulse of the city beneath my feet, a heartbeat that has shifted from reckless abandon to tense caution. Each step I take is careful, measured, absorbing the rhythm of a city caught between lawlessness and order. Flushing Town Hall, normally a symbol of governance, now stands as a fragile island of control amid the flowing chaos of the Blackout. Its windows, darkened and reflective, seem to watch silently, holding the memory of every civic moment ever witnessed inside its walls. In the streets, the looters' energy wanes as the night stretches on, replaced by the meticulous work of law enforcement. Officers move through the scattered crowds, herding people, confiscating stolen goods, and marking those already detained. The scene is choreographed chaos, a ballet of tension where every misstep could spiral into violence. I notice a group of teens being guided toward a squad car. One of them glances back at the town hall, eyes wide with disbelief and something akin to awe. Even in fear, the human mind seeks landmarks, a sense of continuity amidst upheaval. The cacophony of the night is punctuated by distant shouts, sporadic crashes, and the occasional flare of lightning illuminating the streets like a brief, unflinching spotlight. A lone street lamp flickers on the corner, casting long shadows across a puddle-strewn street where a pair of looters crouch and divide their spoils. They freeze as a police flashlight sweeps over them, then bolt, splashing water as they vanish into the darkness. I pause near the curb, taking it all in. The tension is almost tactile, like a charged wire running through the air. The storm may have subsided, but the storm within the city has only intensified. It's as if the Blackout has stripped away the veneer of normalcy, revealing the raw undercurrent of human behavior. courage, fear, opportunism, and the struggle for survival. And yet, even in this maelstrom, there are moments that stand out in stark contrast to the chaos. I see a man kneeling beside an elderly woman, helping her over a curb, shielding her from the push of the crowd. I see a shopkeeper emerging from a shattered doorway, clutching what remains of his merchandise, whispering to another man, "We'll rebuild. We'll survive." These quiet acts of humanity, fleeting and fragile, feel almost luminous against the dark tapestry of the night. From the steps of Town Hall, I can see the broader pattern forming. The ebb and flow of human movement, the choreography of panic, and the structured intervention of authority. The city, though fractured and fearful, is learning its rhythm. Police officers act as temporary anchors, pulling chaos into small pockets, containing it until order can be restored. The historic building behind them, built to withstand decades, centuries even, seems to absorb this tension. Its masonry a silent witness to the fragility and resilience of civic life. Every few blocks, I notice pockets of looting still erupting, but the intensity diminishes as authorities establish more control. I hear an officer call over the radio, "Hold your position. Don't advance too quickly." The voice is calm, precise, a counterpoint to the panic surrounding it. These small gestures, these careful commands, remind me that order is not a constant. It is negotiated, fought for, and maintained in the gaps between chaos. I step closer to the building, letting my hand brush against the cold stone of the facade. There is a tactile weight here, a connection to history. Flushing Town Hall has seen civic disputes, public meetings, celebrations, and moments of crisis. Tonight, it witnesses a blackout-driven uprising, and yet it remains enduring, a symbol that authority and human perseverance are not so easily extinguished, even by darkness. Looking around, I reflect on the fragility of order. One lightning strike, one failure in a system, and everything shifts. What was ordinary becomes extraordinary. What was mundane becomes urgent. And yet, from the shadows of fear, a sense of human resilience emerges. People adapt, survive, and even in moments of defiance, there is a thread of cooperation, neighbors helping neighbors, officers acting with humanity, those caught in chaos seeking paths to safety. From this perspective, Flushing Town Hall is more than a building. It is a prism through which the city's complex response to the blackout is refracted. Authority is not omnipotent. It is human, flawed, and sometimes overwhelmed. But even in imperfection, it creates a framework within which the city can recover, one step at a time. As the night stretches on, I notice the subtle shift in energy. The frantic, frenzied movements of earlier hours give way to a slower, more deliberate pace. Looters retreat, sirens wail in the distance, and the first tentative rays of dawn hint at the horizon. The street, scarred and debris-laden, is still a stage of tension, but the choreography has changed. Law enforcement has reclaimed some measure of control, and the city, battered but unbroken, prepares to breathe again. Pausing one final time on the steps of the town hall, I feel the weight of the night settle around me. History is not only written in grand speeches or monumental events. It is present here, In these moments of tension, fear, courage, and endurance, I sense the quiet, persistent heartbeat of a city that, though tested, will persist. I take a slow breath, letting the damp, metallic air fill my lungs. The lights of emergency vehicles cast long shadows across the steps, flickering like ancient sentinels guarding the fragile order of the night. And for a moment, I am struck by the duality of it all, the city's capacity for both destruction and care, chaos and order, despair and resilience. With that, I step away from the town hall, continuing north, carrying with me the echoes of shouts, the flashes of light, and the enduring sense that New York, even in darkness, holds itself together through courage, community, and the delicate balance between fear and hope. The streets of Flushing stretch ahead of me, silent now, save for the occasional crackle of distant fires and the muted echo of hurried footsteps fading into the night. I turn east, guided by the dim glow of scattered streetlights and the occasional flash of distant lightning, toward the Bone House at 3701 Bone Street. This historic 17th century home, with its wooden beams and solid brickwork, has stood longer than any of the streets or stores I've just passed. Its endurance feels almost defiant, a quiet rebellion against the storm outside and the unrest that has gripped the city for hours. The air is heavy with the lingering scent of rain-soaked pavement and smoke. Bits of debris crunch under my shoes. Shattered glass, soaked newspapers, fallen branches, and the occasional forgotten article of clothing. I move slowly, deliberately, almost afraid to disturb the fragile stillness that has settled over this part of Flushing. The chaos of Woolworths and Macy's, of shouting, panic, and looting, now feels like a distant memory, softened by the passage of a few blocks in the calming presence of history. As I approach the Bone House, the storm's intensity seems to ease. The wind no longer lashes violently at my coat. The rain has softened to a steady drizzle that taps gently on the roof of the house and the fence at its perimeter. The wooden beams, darkened with centuries of weather, exude warmth even in the cold night. The brickwork, aged and irregular, seems almost alive, like a guardian of time, standing watch over the neighborhood and the city beyond. Every board, every seam in the mortar tells a story of endurance, of a world that has survived far longer and faced far greater trials than this one night. I pause at the wrought iron gate, feeling the cool metal under my fingers. It is simple, unadorned, yet purposeful. Leaning against it, I let my eyes wander across the small yard and toward the house itself. The windows are dark, yet they seem to reflect the city's pulse in the faintest flickers of light from the street. Shadows dance along the brick walls, cast by the occasional lightning flash. Each flicker seems to animate the house, giving it a presence that is almost human, a witness to centuries of history. The streets around the Bone House tell their own story. Faded chalk outlines mark the remnants of human activity, the detritus of panic, overturned trash cans, scattered newspapers, and the occasional broken bicycle. Rests quietly now, no longer hurriedly moved by frantic hands. Smoke drifts lazily from distant fires, curling upward into the night sky. It is not as menacing here. The fires are far enough away that they seem like tiny beacons, reminders of the world beyond this quiet corner. The city feels slower here, its heartbeat steadier, almost sacred. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the damp air fill my lungs. There is a rhythm to the night, a slow, deliberate pulse that contrasts sharply with the chaos of the earlier streets. The storm and blackout have revealed layers of the city I rarely notice. The enduring structures, the quiet resilience, the way people move even when the lights are out. It is a city alive not only in its noise but in its persistence, in its ability to hold itself together despite human folly and natural disaster alike. Opening my eyes, I take in the house again. I imagine the generations who lived here, their lives intertwined with the rhythms of a city that has grown around them. The Bone House has weathered wars, economic depressions, fires, and floods. It has seen a New York that was smaller, quieter, and far more intimate, and it has seen the city evolve into the sprawling metropolis that I walk through tonight. Its survival is a testament to endurance, to the idea that even in the darkest hours, something will remain. I begin to walk slowly around the perimeter, my footsteps soft on the damp ground. I notice the details, the weathered wooden shutters, the uneven brickwork, the slight tilt of the roof, a reminder that age and history are not always neat or tidy. The house has character, shaped by time and the people who have cared for it. In many ways, it is a mirror for the city itself, a mixture of scars and strength, vulnerability and resilience. From this vantage point, I reflect on what I have seen over the course of the night. The panic at Shea Stadium, the looting at Woolworth's and Macy's, the determined efforts of law enforcement, and the small acts of kindness and bravery that punctuated the chaos. All of it has led me here, to this quiet moment. History is not only in headlines or dramatic gestures, it is in the persistence of buildings, the endurance of neighborhoods, the subtle ways that life continues despite disaster. The Bone House embodies this truth. It stands quietly, almost humbly, but with a strength that is undeniable. I let my gaze drift upward to the night sky, streaked with the occasional flash of lightning. The storm is passing now, leaving behind a cool, damp calm. I feel the pulse of the city through the ground beneath me, a slow, steady rhythm that contrasts with the frenetic energy of a few hours ago. I imagine the streets, the people, the countless unseen stories that have unfolded tonight, and I realize that this is what resilience looks like, not the absence of chaos, but the ability to persist through it. The Bone House reminds me that time itself is a kind of shelter. Storms pass, fires burn out, and human folly can wreak havoc. But some things endure. Structures, memories, and the spirit of a city remain. The quiet presence of this house, its wooden beams and brick walls holding steady, offers a lesson in perspective. While the blackout exposed fear, desperation, and opportunism, it also revealed patience, courage, and endurance. I step back from the gate and take a deep breath, savoring the damp scent of earth and rain. My feet are soaked, my coat clings to me, and my hands are chilled by the cool metal, but I feel strangely centered. The The chaos of the night seems to have been absorbed by the city itself, leaving this small corner, a historic home, a quiet street, as a place to pause, to reflect, to find balance. I imagine the future generations who will walk these streets, who will look upon the bone house with the same awe I feel now. They will see not only the scars left by storms, blackouts, and human behavior, but also the endurance that makes New York more than a collection of buildings and streets. They will witness the city's pulse, steady and determined, always moving forward. As I turn to leave, the house lingers in my mind. Its presence is a quiet reassurance that even in darkness, there is light. Even in panic, there is order. Even in chaos, there is a thread of continuity. The Bone House, like the city itself, has survived centuries of uncertainty, and tonight, it survived this blackout as well. I take one last look back, the storm having finally passed, leaving the air crisp and the streets glistening. The distant sounds of sirens fade into the night, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle dripping of rain from rooftops. The city is settling into an uneasy calm, but it is calm nonetheless. A city that has endured and will endure again. I feel a profound sense of hope and connection to this place, to its people, and to its history. The blackout, though frightening and chaotic, has reminded me of the resilience embedded in the very fabric of New York. It has revealed the layers of human experience, from fear to bravery, despair to endurance. And it has left me with the knowledge that the city, like the Bone House, will continue to stand quietly, resiliently, against whatever comes next. Rest easy, friends. The rabbit hole of time holds many more slow steps. Until we meet again, Silas is signing off.